All right, guys, welcome in to the 5 to 9 Hustle LL Bean Reseller Deep Dive. My name is Eric. I'm a reseller on sites like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, and Amazon, and I specialize in men's thrifted clothing. Today, we're going to be diving deep into this one brand to show you the items that you can flip fast and for good money. The reason I'm doing this, a couple few different reasons, but number one, a list of brands is simply not enough, and that's a conversation I see quite a bit online. Someone who's just getting into reselling, or someone who's reselling hard goods, but there's so much clothing available at their thrift stores or wherever they are, and they'll say, "Hey, I need to get into that too. I hate walking by money. What brands do you guys look out for?" Um, and the fact of the matter is, brands are not enough. You got to know the specific items within each brand that are going to flip fast and for good money. Another reason is somewhat selfish. About a year ago, I relocated to a new area, and I just have a lot fewer thrift stores and a lot less opportunity than I did before. So I need to maximize value out of each sourcing trip, and I'm going to find that value in commonly found brands like LL Bean. Another one is perception. If you're new to this game and you're just getting started and you're doing your research, you as a consumer have preconceived perception of different brands and what they're worth and what's a good, quote unquote, good brand, a high value brand that does not necessarily apply to a good resale brand. And then lastly is confusion. Another thing you see quite a bit on social media is someone will say, "Hey, XYZ brand sucks. I'm done with it. It's dead to me." And then for every person that says that, there'll be a handful that comment on that post and say, "Oh, I love that brand. I sell it all the time." And so what's going on there? The reason is they're just not comparing apples to apples. They're not buying the right items versus the person who loves the brand, knows which items to buy. All right, so a couple ground rules on our LL Bean discussion. I'm only talking about men's clothing because that's what I specialize in, and that's not going to include shoes or accessories. Anytime I talk about search results during this video, I'm filtering for pre-owned and buy it now. I'm not looking at new or auction listings. And then sell-through rate. Sell-through rate is a very important metric. It will help you make good sourcing decisions, but there's more than one way to calculate it. And I want to make sure that you understand the way I calculate it because I'm going to refer to it throughout the video many times. And so that's one of the first things we're going to go through. And then early in the video, I'm going to show a good amount of my research process. So if you want to take those methods and apply them to other brands, you can do that and you're off and running. So let's first get our numbers for LL Bean sell-through rate overall and some first brand impressions, and then we will dive in to some specific items. Also want to mention as we go through this, if you want to take notes, go for it. I love that. But I am going to post on my website, the5to9hustle.com, all of the information that's in this video in an easily downloadable form if you don't want to write it all down. All right, so when I do this kind of research, the first thing I like to do is get a general overall impression of the brand and then drill into more specific categories. And the very first thing I do is calculate a sell-through rate for the brand as a whole. So I am on eBay's homepage. I'm just doing a simple search for LL Bean. And I do want to first drill into the categories I'm interested in, which is clothing, and then men's clothing. And so I won't be looking at numbers that include shoes or accessories. And then the next thing I want to do, so that got me to 26,700 listings, but I do want to make sure I'm looking at pre-owned and buy it now. So I don't plan to do many auctions on thrifted LL Bean clothing. So there are 24,029 LL Bean listings for men's pre-owned clothing. And then the next thing we need to do for our sell-through rate is get the number of solds. Now, I do calculate sell-through rate differently than some other people. There are a few different ways to do it, and I use it as a predictor of future sales. So we got 15,275 sold versus 24,000 listed. But I'm going to refer to sell-through rate many times throughout this video, so it's important that you understand the way I'm calculating it and the way I'm talking about it. So let's go look at that now, and then we'll come back and get an overall impression of what's listed and what's selling, and then drill into more specific items and suss out the BOLOs. All right, so we had 24,000 listed. It was slightly more than that, but it's okay if we round off here. We don't need to be specific down to the thousandth decimal place or whatever. And we had 15,275 sold. When you look at sold listings on eBay, it's giving you 90 days worth of data, the last 90 days. I want to know a monthly sell-through rate. So I'm going to divide the number of sold by 3, giving me a 30-day average of 5,091. Then I'm going to take the 5,091 average monthly sales number, and I'm dividing that against the number that are currently listed. And so basically what I'm saying is, if that average continues to hold, then I would expect over the next 30 days, 21% of all of the LL Bean listings to sell, or a 21% sell-through rate. So I'm using it, like I said, as a predictor of future sales. It's not perfect, but it has worked well for me. Generally with thrifted clothing, I like a 30% sell-through rate or better, because then I would expect to hold most of my inventory for no more than 3 months before it turns over, and I can profit and get more items, grow my store, and all that good stuff. All right, so the next thing I like to do is just scroll through what's listed. Nothing real scientific here, not taking any stats down or anything like that, but just getting an impression of what kind of stuff people are listing. And so with LL Bean, right away I see plenty of flannel things. I've seen this word 3 times now. Chamois. Is that how you spell chamois? I think that's chamois. I've seen some vintage pieces, lots and lots and lots of shirts, some wool items, things that are lined with flannel, more wool, plenty of jackets. I mean, this is, I think, pretty much what you would expect from LL Bean. I've seen a lot of this chamois stuff, so that's definitely going to be one that we look into. And plenty of vintage as well. And again, blind. So, this just gives me some ideas and direction of what to check out when I start to look at, what pieces are selling and for how much money more specifically. So then next, let's zip back up to the top of the page, and let's get solds. And I just do the same thing. Does what is selling match what is listed generally, or does anything just kind of stick out? And right away we've got vintage and lined on some jeans, pullovers, jackets, wool jacket. And again, this isn't scientific, but seeing a lot more jackets and pullover type things sold and pants versus, we're seeing a lot of shirts that were listed. Vintage bomber jacket, that looks nice. And more jackets. And of course, things that are lined. So just off our general quick first impression scrolling through like this, I would say, generally speaking, the solds and what's listed match, although it seems like other items are going to sell better than shirts, but there's certainly plenty of shirts sold as well. Here's another chamois one, and that's the bottom of that page. So that we'll jot down some notes, basically just keywords, and then I'll get started on looking at more specific items. So let's go check out our notes. All right, so just general first impressions. The types of items people are listing: flannels. We saw a lot of the chamois shirts, coats, sweaters, vests, flannel or fleece lined items. Vintage seems to be kind of a big deal. And saw also a lot of price points, $25 and up, which we like. On the solds, you have plenty of jackets, coats, etc. Anything wool seems like it's good. Anything with down or anything lined seemed like it was good. Aztec patterns, vintage, and there was plenty of flannels as well in the solds. All right, so we still have our general LL Bean men's clothing pre-owned, buy it now, search up. But now we're going to get into more specifics, and I'm going to drill into the shirts category since that one is first. And we've got 12,257 listed. So roughly half of our listings are shirts. And then let's get solds just so that we can have the shirts sell-through rate. 5,901 are sold. We just learned something really important about this brand. Let's go apply some critical thinking skills. All right, so the shirts category, we had 12,257 listed, 5,900 sold. It comes out to a 16% sell-through rate, so that's lower than the overall brand sell-through rate. And about half of what was listed was shirts. So it came out actually 51% shirts, 49% everything else, so about 50-50. But we only had, what was it, 5,000, 5,900 sold shirts. And we had like 15,000 something sold in the brand, meaning about 2/3 of the sales are coming from things that are not shirts, even though half the listings are shirts. So right away, we know shirts are the lower value or slower selling items, and everything else is essentially, potentially good. But I think there's still plenty of value within the shirts if we can figure out which ones to buy, and so we're gonna continue to drill into shirts. Okay, so now we're ready to drill into those more specific items, and I thought I would show the process once so that you can see what I'm doing, and then I will show you the exact search terms I use, the number listed, the number sold, and then what I would price the item at if I had a similar one in good condition to list. So not necessarily tabulating up all the solds and coming up with an average, more eyeballing it and figuring out where I would price it. Very similar to when I go to list an item. And what we're going to do essentially is add words or exclude words from our searches. So I still have my general LL Bean search up in the shirts category. We're going to look at shirts first. And we had the chamois word we noticed several times in our initial impressions. So that's one I definitely want to check out. So I'm just going to add that word to my search and see how many we have listed. eBay is being a little finicky today. So we have 556 results. So there's 556 active LL Bean chamois flannel shirts or chamois shirts. And then I want to get the solds. 876 sold. And you see really good prices too. 40 plus shipping, 25 plus 11 shipping, 38 plus 15 shipping. So a lot of these are most likely going over £1. So they almost all have shipping on them. But let's go over and start pumping out some results and get you guys the BOLO list for LL Bean. All right, so I went ahead and looked up chamois, and chamois is actually like a leather material, but there's chamois cloth, which is what we're talking about here, and it's a thick, soft flannel with a suede-like finish. So a sueded finish, essentially, and you'll see that in other brands. They'll call it a sueded finish. Here's a couple examples. 25 bucks plus 7.5 shipping. 35 they took an offer plus 7 shipping. Um, and we had a lot more sold than listed. But keep in mind the solds are over 90 days. But a good hint if you don't like doing the math, anytime the number of active listings matches the number of sold listings, exactly, that'll come out to basically a 33% sell-through rate. But in this case, it exceeded it, 52.5% sell-through rate. So if you find one of these shirts, it's most likely going to sell within 2 months if it is in good condition and you price it well. And 32 to 40 bucks seems to be the way to go. And the prices that I give when I list out prices are shipped. So I'm factoring in the shipping costs as well. And at my local thrift store, shirts are $4. So if I can find shirts I can sell for 32 or 40 bucks, I'll take that all day long. All right, so next we're going to get rid of chamois and we're going to look at lined shirts because lined things seem to be a big deal in the LL Bean world. And in fact, we had an extremely high sell-through rate. And one thing to keep in mind throughout the video is I am doing this in February. So it's cold. And there could be some seasonality to these numbers. The line stuff, the flannel stuff, maybe it doesn't sell as well in the summer. But based on what I'm seeing, I would continue to buy this all year long. I don't care. 76.5% sell-through rate on lined shirts. That's fantastic. And then in particular, there is a model that they call the Hurricane shirt that I saw repeatedly. 100% sell-through rate. And they're selling basically as fast as people can list them. There were only 33 active at the time. And those go anywhere from $50, pushing all the way up to $80. And yes, I'm still talking about pre-owned. On the non-hurricane shirts or line shirts overall, still 35 to 50 bucks. Just sort of depending on size, depending on pattern, depending on what else it has going on. Definitely a scoop every time any lined LL Bean shirt, unless it's in tatters. All right, so next up, I wanted to look at just flannels. And so I'm actually going to exclude the words chamois and line because those both show up as flannel shirts as well because you have flannel line and chamois is a type of flannel. But I wanted to hone in really on just your run-of-the-mill, everyday standard flannel shirt. And in the LL Bean brand, we still have a 37% sell-through rate. And I would price these anywhere from 25 to 30 bucks based on what I'm seeing in solds. But top tip, you want to watch the weight on flannel shirts. A lot of them will go over a pound, and the ones that don't will probably, still be in that 12 to 16 ounce first class package range. That's going to cost you $5 to ship. So that's going to depend on how much you can get them for at your local thrift stores. If it's a $25 shirt, but it's going to cost $8 to ship it, and your thrift store has it priced at $8, maybe you want to pass on it. If it's a $30 shirt and your thrift store has it priced at $4, it's probably still okay to scoop it up. Another shirt I found was a specific model called the River Driver. These are Henleys, and you're going to be able to identify them, one, by the fact of being a Henley, but they have wool content. And wool definitely seems to be a driver, if you will, of LL Bean value so far with our first impressions. So like this one, 50% cotton, 40% wool, 10% nylon. River Driver Henley. 100% sell-through rate again. We have 227 sold, meaning about 70 are selling a month. There's only 44 listed, and easily 35 to 40 bucks, maybe higher based on what's listed. So that is a score all day long. And if you're like me, where you've looked up a lot of LL Bean shirts and been like, I don't know, I don't see the value, would you stop and think twice about a Henley with a screen printed tag? Probably not. A lot of value in those River Driver Henleys. All right, and so then the last thing that I wanted to do was hone in on just regular button front shirts. So we're excluding flannel, chamois, and lined from the search. And this is the dog of the deal with LL Bean shirts. And this is why I had a negative perception of the brand for resale, because this is definitely what you will come across most commonly. Just a standard cotton button front or button down shirt. 10,000 listed, only 3,000 sold. That's a 10% sell through rate. That's paltry. And even worse, we're talking prices sub $20, a lot of them in the $10 to $20 range. And even if I refine the search down to like XXL and up, because big sizes sell well and for more money, it helped the sell-through rate some, but not the prices. So that's going to be a no from me, dog. All right, so to summarize, LL Bean shirts, we want to scoop up the chamois, the suede finish, anything lined, the hurricane shirt, flannels, if in good condition, and the River Driver Henley. And there were some other things that definitely seemed to hold value. There weren't really enough listed or sold to get good like sell-through numbers on, but anything vintage LL Bean, you want to check it out. You want to investigate, you want to stop, you want to do some research on the spot and possibly buy those. The vintage pieces do go on the higher end of the price ranges. One thing in particular was vintage rugby polos, long sleeve polo shirts with the stripes, LL Bean, 55 bucks all day long. Anything with wool in it, you want to check out and possibly buy. And then anything that looks hunting related. You got that blaze orange, that big bright orange color for safety when hunting. And then, anything with the padding, like a shooting shirt, will have a quilted pad up on the chest for the, the butt of the rifle to hit or whatever. And then what we want to avoid in shirts, the most common to find item, cotton button front and button down shirts are a no-go for me. I would say unless you're getting them super cheap, like you buy bags of clothing off someone from Facebook Marketplace and there's some LL Bean shirts in there and you got them for, 20 cents a piece, sure, go ahead and list them. Just know you're going to sit on them for a while and you're probably going to get 15 bucks or less. All right, so next we're going to go over to jeans. We're going to maintain our LL Bean general search at the beginning. And I'm showing here just, how I drill into the different categories. So LL Bean, we only have 1,085 results. And the jeans category was pretty cut and dry. We've got lined jeans, flannel or fleece lined, and not lined. Jeans overall as a category, 32% sell-through rate. So, hey, scoop LL Bean jeans. Or looking in more detail, the lined ones are what sell fast. And for really decent money, 35 to 40 bucks each. Unlined LL Bean jeans, only a 20% sell-through rate. Good value though at $25 to $32. And a 20% sell-through rate actually is, not that bad for men's jeans pre-owned. So I might consider buying those as well. Just know, a little bit slower seller than what I might typically look for. Then we're going to go into pants. So, pants that are not jeans, essentially. Only a 23% sell-through rate. Pretty much on par with the brand sell-through rate overall. But definitely some good value if you know what to look for. Here are some of our good value keywords for LL Bean pants, and really for men's pants in general. Gore-Tex, which is a almost always a vintage piece. It's a waterproof, I think, nylon base, but not sure. Nylon pants I've sold a ton of. Articulated knees like you would find in hiking pants. Convertible zip off pants do extremely well. I'll even dip down to a brand like Columbia for those. Duck canvas, cargo pants, again, anything lined. Corduroy, wool, vintage, and ripstop. So let's look a little more specifically. The thing that was dragging down pants is just your typical pair of chinos or khakis. We do not want to get those. They had a very low sell-through rate. And I think it was, let me see here. Oh, I don't have it in front of me. I think it was like 10%. But if you find that same pair of chinos, but it's lined, you definitely want to pick that up. Lined pants, 54% sell-through rate, almost identical to jeans, and pretty much same price range, 35 to 40 bucks. Another one was cargo pants and corduroys. Both of those right around a 30% sell-through rate. You know, the cargo pants a little bit weaker on price, 20 to 30 bucks. Keep in mind this is the shipped price, and you're going to be paying almost $8 to ship them. But corduroy pants, LL Bean, 25 to 35 bucks, and you can expect those to be in your inventory for about 3 months. I mentioned convertible zip off pants. These are, for whatever reason, very popular. Only had a 26% sell-through rate with LL Bean, but most all of them go $25 plus. And the great thing about these is many of those will go first class. A lot of nylon pants, if they're nylon in particular, I should say, will weigh less than a pound and go first class. Again, anything wool, look for that wool content. And I'm not talking about like what you would find with men's dress pants or suit pants. I'm talking about like big, thick, heavy pants that are for getting down in the brush, hunting and stuff. 100% wool. Not quite the 30% sell-through rate, but the prices, 50 to a hundo. So definitely you want to scoop those up, even if you have to wait a little while on them to sell. If I can buy a pair of pants for $4 and sell it for $100, I'm definitely willing to wait. And then again, like with the shirts category, vintage pieces, definitely worth checking out. Hard to put an average on because everyone's a little bit different. So to summarize, pants and jeans, anything lined. Corduroy, cargo pants, nylon or what I call trail pants or hiking pants, and wool hunting pants, we definitely want to scoop up. Anything that looks vintage, you definitely want to investigate and possibly pick up. And then we want to avoid your typical chinos or khakis. And you might want to avoid jeans if you don't have the capital to sit on inventory for 4, 5, or 6 months. And you're looking for quick flips only, then you might want to pass on the jeans unless they're a really big size or something like that. All right, let's get into sweaters with LL Bean. Overall, 25.5% sell-through rate, a healthy number of listings, about 3 times the amount of jeans, and we had 2,500 sold, so 25% sell-through. The big split here was fabric content between cotton and wool. Typical cotton sweater, only a 16% sell-through rate. Wool sweaters, 41% sell-through rate. So if you see an LL Bean wool sweater, that's what we want to go for.
All right, so since cotton sweaters are just kind of all over the place, I wanted to go back to the actual results. I think it'll be easier to talk through it this way. And there is some value in LL Bean cotton sweaters, but just generally speaking, you want wool instead of cotton. But what sells slowly and for not great money is just plain, just sort of standard sweaters. So here we are at about kind of 18 bucks shipped, and you know, these are just solid color sweaters, no real pattern. You know, you're not seeing cable knit. There is a turtleneck there. But just very basic sorts of sweaters. And we're down about 15 bucks now, and it just keeps going down from there. Cashmere blend, it seems like you probably get more than that. But now let's go to sort by highest. Let's see the filter. I've filtered for the item specific, the material as cotton. And when you do that, it's not always 100% correct. But looking at the highest, you'll see right away, if you can get the word fisherman into your title, that is a very good thing. Of course, don't just throw it on every sweater. That's a sweatshirt. But these 5-button Henleys, they're like big, thick, chunky Henleys, going for great money. And then also notice this rolled neck sweater, which people are also associating as a fisherman style. There's one there. There's 2 in a row there. Go for great money. There's 3 in a row, all at basically 50 bucks plus plus shipping. There's another one of those Henleys. Sweaters that are lined, anything lined in LL Bean. And then one cotton sweater you can look out for is anything with a Fair Isle or Nordic pattern. Looks like it does well. And then these here too, LL Bean cardigans, 100% cotton, especially the ones that are vintage with leather buttons can go for some crazy money. And there are wool ones also, but no need to avoid a 100% cotton sweater LL Bean if it is Grandpa's cardigan. People love those things. And then there's more of these fisherman style. So you're looking for, if you are going to get a cotton sweater, you're looking for it to either be some kind of big, heavy, longshoreman, fisherman type of thing, or you're looking for features such as cable knit. You're looking for cool patterns. And those are worth grabbing and flipping. But just a basic, blue sweater or something like that, you probably have a sub $20 sweater that's going to be expensive to ship.
All right, so on the cotton side, those 5-button Henleys, 55 bucks and up all day long. Cardigans, 30 or 40. Anything with a Nordic or Fair Isle pattern, 25 to 40 bucks. Those rolled neck sweaters, 50 bucks easily plus shipping. And then, anything that we can call the fisherman style was pretty much 40 to $60. Cable knit, 25 to 40 bucks. And anything vintage, we definitely want to investigate. And just avoid those plain, solid, 100% cotton sweaters.
Okay, so let's give the same treatment to the wool sweaters, and then we'll go ahead and summarize the sweater category. And didn't I say in the last clip, there are wool cardigans, and especially vintage with leather buttons, can get some crazy money. This one here went for 80 bucks plus 12 shipping. It's almost a $100 cardigan right there. It's made in the USA. Moving another cardigan style. This guy here, I would say is very undersold. Any 100% LL Bean wool sweater, I wouldn't start for less than 30 bucks. And then the other thing to pay attention to with the wool, and to be clear, I would list any 100% LL Bean wool sweater, 100% wool LL Bean sweater. Look for where they are made. We'll see Norway and Norwegian quite a bit. This one's $85 plus shipping. Here's another cardigan. This one's full zip. Lambswool, New Zealand wool sweater. Anything vintage in LL Bean, but particularly the sweaters. I mean, just anything vintage. Here's another one. Wool, wool, wool. So you see the kind of prices you get. Like I said, I would bottom out at 30, and we go up from there. So here's another Norwegian one, $76 plus 10. The Beatles sang about Norwegian wood. Forget that. We want Norwegian wool. So some vintage LL Bean sweaters you will find either made in Norway, made in Scotland, or made in Ireland. Norway is the best. Those tend to go over $80, followed by Ireland, kind of in the 60s, with the least being Scotland, but still a great buy. I'm going to sort this to highest price so you can see some of those Norwegian and other vintage sweaters. This one at the top is just crazy pants. But just super classic fisherman sweater, I guess, 150 bucks. And you'll see Norway and fisherman is essentially what we've got here at the top. A lot of the Norwegian ones get up over 100. And moral of the story, as with the other categories we've seen so far, anything wool in LL Bean you want to grab. But you can make some serious money if you find the right sweaters.
All right, rounding out the sweaters. On the wool side, fisherman styles, big bucks. Made in Norway, 80 and up. Made in Ireland, 60 and up. Made in Scotland, 45 and up. And that's not to say some of those Irish or Scottish ones can't be worth the same amount as the Norwegian ones. It just depends on the particular item, so priced correctly. Vintage sweaters were big bucks, and wool cardigans anywhere from 80 to 120 bucks. Any 100% wool LL Bean sweater, whether it's recent or old, I'm going to be grabbing. And the only thing to avoid is underpricing. All right, so next we're going to jump into coats. And I'm going to try to make coats short and sweet, although you could probably make an hour-long video just about LL Bean coats because there's so many different styles. There's so many different things to consider. Coats overall, pushing a 30% sell-through rate, about 27 and a half. But just like the other categories, there's one thing in there that's dragging that sell-through rate down, and there are a bunch of great items to find and flip. So this was really interesting to me. Like, this is not the kind of item I'm thinking about when I think LL Bean, but there they are. LL Bean vintage bombers. 30% sell-through rate, 31%, anywhere from 100 to 300 bucks, with the Flying Tiger model being the most valuable. Particularly look for that shearling lining on the collar. You've got some serious big bucks if you find one of those. So I mentioned there's something dragging the category down, and it's fleece pullovers. Fleece overall can be quite annoying, but generally we're seeing price points closer to 20 bucks. We had less than a 30% sell-through rate, and fleece for a reseller can be very hard to deal with. Over time it gets matted, it just doesn't look great, and then if the person owned an animal, just forget about it. Like, you could spend an entire day trying to get all the hair out of a fleece, and it's just not going to be worth your time. There's definitely exceptions to avoid the fleece pullover rule. Again, anything vintage you want to check out. Anything with an Aztec pattern is probably worth picking up. And then I did notice a full zip fleece will sell faster and for more money than a pullover. And I would still consider picking up the pullovers if they were just in excellent condition. It looked like the person bought it, wore it once or twice, kept it in their closet for a few years, and then donated it. I'd probably still pick it up. But fleece as a rule, with LL Bean in particular, I'm going to pass on, particularly if it's a pullover. All right, so with coats, some of our good value keywords. Chore coat and barn coat and field jacket, I believe, are pretty much all the same thing, but people use all those different terms. Parkas, packable, which you find a lot on nylon items. The puffer style, down or goose down. The bomber jackets we talked about. Wax jackets, Gore-Tex again. Any kind of denim jacket you typically want to look into. I mentioned the Aztec with the sweater, the pullovers, anything wool again, anything vintage again. So the chore coat or barn coat is basically a little bit longer, heavy coat that you put on to go out and do, go milk the cows or whatever. Um, these have a very high sell-through rate, 56%, and will fetch you anywhere from $50 to $90. Anything in the puffer style is worth getting. There's a really wide price range here, but 57% sell-through rate. The reason for the wide price range is they're not all stuffed with down. Some of them have synthetic. So the synthetics are going to be at the lower end of the price range. The down items, I would say more like $75 and up, with vests maybe going for less. Rain jackets, that's where we get into our packable stuff, our Gore-Tex stuff, but anything with rain in the title had a 31% sell-through rate, and they go pretty much $40 to $75 shipped, depending on the item. I mentioned Aztec throughout the video. People love the sort of Southwest Aztec looking patterns. Anything in the jackets category with Aztec had a 45% sell-through rate, started at $40 and just went up from there. And then lastly, the wool, and in particular, and what I've got pictured here is Mackinaw wool. Mackinaw wool is basically just a thick, heavy wool. It's very commonly found in that red and black buffalo plaid pattern. And yeah, you're looking 45% sell-through rate, 70 to 120 bucks. And my feeling on LL Bean jackets, basically anything that's not a fleece pullover, I'm probably going to start at least 40 bucks and up. So definitely worth grabbing LL Bean jackets if the price is right at your local thrift stores. That concludes the LL Bean reseller deep dive. One last tip I wanted to throw out is almost all LL Bean items have a style code, which can make it very easy to look up and research an item. Now, I'm not a believer that if you have a shirt or something like that, that you have to find that exact shirt to comp and price your item. But this will be very helpful. Like, is this the hurricane shirt? You can Google that style code and find out if it's the hurricane shirt. But also very helpful on jackets, just because there's so many different ones, so many different styles. Being able to look up that style number will help you figure out what keywords to look up and include in your listing, and just how to price your listing. So that's it. That's the LL Bean reseller deep dive. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope to do more brand deep dives like this in the very near future. If you're an early watcher of the video, I might not have the content up on the website yet, but just give me a few days and I will get it there. So you can just copy the list of items and not have to watch this 5 times and write it all down. So once again, my name's Eric. This is the 5 to 9 Hustle. I'd appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in this kind of content. Got a lot more good stuff coming at you. Have a great day.